Hola a todos, bienvenidos a Argentina Comic Con. Yo soy Valentina Pulgarín y hoy seré la Potterhead con más suerte de todo el mundo porque voy a hablar acá y con ustedes con Bonnie Wright, nuestra querida Gina Weasley. ¿Estáis listos? Porque yo sí que estoy y por favor no se olviden de usar la hashtag ACC Livestream en sus comentarios. Okay, hi Bonnie, how are you today?
Hi, I'm so good. I'm so pleased to be speaking with you, and I'm very well. I'm very good.
Good. And for starters, where are you in the world right now?
I'm actually in Utah, in America. I've been on a road trip for the last 10 days, and I'm based out of California. Yeah.
That's so nice. And have you ever been to Argentina?
You know, I never have. I've always wanted to. I haven't really explored Latin America enough, to be honest. It's always been, and really, I'm not that far away up in North America to explore.
Yeah.
So I should. When the world opens up again, I definitely will.
I hope that too. And just so you know, Argentina Comic Con is huge, not only in Argentina, but also in Latin America. So be sure that there are a lot of fans of Harry Potter here watching us.
Oh, good. I love the sport, and I feel like it's such a, Harry Potter is so popular in Latin America, and it's lovely to sort of like get the enthusiasm that I feel you always give to the films.
Yeah. So I am so curious to ask you about your experience during Harry Potter years, but also your experience, your life today. And it's been a little more than 10 years, I guess, since you finished filming the movie, right?
Yeah, it has. I think actually next month it's been 10 years. Because
Oh
we
my God.
definitely, yeah, we finished. Yeah, it's kind of wild actually that it's gone by so fast. I mean, we shot them for 10 years, and now it's been that same amount of time since.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's crazy how you finished the project and you spent most of your life filming it, and now you are balancing that already.
Yeah. I think when I finished it, I'd spent more of my living life in them than I had spent not. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard you did the first castings for Gina Weasley after your brother read the books. Do you still remember those first moments of your career?
Yeah, that's right. So my brother had read the first two books and was already kind of a fan of them. And he was my older brother, and everyone knew that they were making movies of them. And he was the one who suggested that I go for the role. So he was obviously very intuitive and knew. And I think, yeah, it was such an experience that, I was very lucky that my family could be like such a part of the experience, the four of us together with it. And we really shared in that, which was really special. And my brother really loved kind of being part of it. He's always someone who's like more behind the camera type of guy. So he was happy that I was doing it, and he could sort of be interested in the other things. But yeah, I owe it to him, really. Yeah.
Yeah, he was basically your ambassador for everything. So congrats to him.
Yeah.
And one of the first. Oh, yeah. And one of the first Gina scenes in the movies is along the whole Weasley family at King's Cross. Do you remember that day? And was that your first day of filming too?
Yeah, it was. It was the first day I'd ever been like on a film set. I knew nothing about all the sort of terminology that was used.
Oh
so
my
I was
God.
like thrown in the deep end. And, they had been shooting already for quite a few months. So everyone sort of knew each other, and I was coming on and hadn't really met anyone. And luckily, Julie Walters, who plays my mother in the film, was literally my sort of safe, showing me the way of everything and really helping me that day. So from day one, she's always been like a very motherly figure to me on the sets. And I think, before you know it, I think also what was fun is when you're so young, you just sort of roll with things. You don't question things too much, and you're not as sort of insecure or aware of yourself. So I think you can just be very present. And
Yeah.
I'm pleased really that in a way that I started that young, because I could have that mentality.
Yeah, and besides that, besides her, did anyone from the set put you under their wing and taught you more about how the film set worked or how actually the film industry worked?
Yeah, I mean, I think Christopher Columbus, who directed the first two films, I think often is sometimes overlooked for how much sort of work he really put into the foundations of the series. I think he really knew how to direct children, because that was really his like repertoire of filmmaking. And I think he just really created this very like safe environment where you could be also given the confidence that you were actually there to not always be told what to do, but you could use your own intuition and initiative. So I think he definitely was very informative for everyone. And I guess all of us, but we had this like deep long-term family connection that we all sort of bonded with over the 10 years. So I sort of was very close to a lot of people. I would say, significantly, obviously being a Weasley and being part of the Weasley family was extra special, because I literally had an on-screen family as well as kind of everything. So that was great. And we were so fortunate to be observing and watching brilliant actors on set who are, the best British and international actors of our time. So just learned so much from observing and watching and being curious.
Yeah, I'm loving that you're talking about Christopher Columbus, like, oh yeah, he was a teacher, basically. Did you learn anything from him or the other directors and the movies that you participated, like the dynamics or the chemistry test moments that you lived in the Harry Potter set and brought to your work later, because you are now a director, right?
Yeah, it's true. I would say, just, going back to the balance that Chris Columbus was able to direct young people with was definitely something that I brought to my first film, where the lead in it is a 9-year-old girl. And I think it's like you create the foundation for someone to like feel safe, but to also be able to have the confidence to experiment with their performance or feel like that they're not being told what to do. I think that's that push and pull of like, how do you give some direction, to give some sort of clear pathway of where you're going, but at the same time allow their freedom for like performance to come through. So I definitely learned a lot from him, or could definitely feel my memories of that experience coming up. Having been directed as a child, you then can direct, children. So that was really helpful. And yeah, I guess they were all really different. You had Christopher Columbus, then you had Alfonso Cuarón, who's just an entirely different type of director who was incredible and such a visionary and very detailed oriented. And then you had Mike Newell, and then you had David Yates. So just in that experience, you could see how you can just direct in so many different ways.
After your experience on the movies, are you watching their films and being like, oh my God, I was with him and I'm admiring even more his work? How is it?
Yeah, for sure. Like as in with the directors afterwards, you then begin to respect them. Yeah. I guess at that age, at the age of, for instance, like Alfonso Cuarón, I love his movies, but at the time I probably wasn't watching all of the films he made because of my age.
I hope to.
But one of my favorite films is Children of Men. And so, it's kind of cool to be like, that's wild that I actually was directed by him and I actually love his work now. It's quite surreal.
I loved how you said about your experience of being a kid on set and learning all this terminology. And I think the good thing about that is that when you're a kid, you're not that afraid to ask any questions. So were you able to shadow also any other professionals, like the people from the arts department or the post-production team, like everything else?
Yeah, I was. I'm very fortunate and pleased that I was such a curious kid. I used to love like pushing buttons, asking what things did, and sort of looking at scenes and things like that. So when I wasn't shooting and I wasn't doing my schoolwork, I spent a lot of time doing sort of work experience or some of my school projects actually within the department. So I did a lot of stuff where the art department was my favorite department, so the the set designs and things like that, and then there were like the props department, the editing department, the costume department. Yeah, I was just always, so lucky that people had the patience to like sit down and answer my questions. And it's such a unique type of process on a scale of film like that, because the craftsmanship that goes into the details and every element is like the most extreme version of movie making. Obviously you look at independent cinema and there's way less kind of resources that go into it, whereas you have something like that and like every single detail has been researched. There's a reason they've used that material, there's a reason why they've lit it a certain
way.
So so it was like a film school before I went to film school.
So were you able to bring your projects from school to the set of Harry Potter? But were you like presenting on class like, oh, this I learned in the art department of the Black Forest, like that?
Yeah. Yeah, there was one project that I did for like design that was looking at the, because most students went and did like a work experience with like a design company or something like that, and had to sort of follow a piece of like a product being made and like following that process. But because I was shooting, I couldn't go and have a week out like in a different business.
Yeah.
So instead I did it on set. So I did like the kind of the lifespan of like how a set is made essentially. So yeah, so my projects and work definitely looked a little bit different.
Oh my God. I hope you got an A because it was probably perfect.
I did pretty well with that project.
I know that it's difficult to say which Harry Potter movie is your favorite, but I'm very curious about what movie would you say is the one that stands out the most filming wise, not the final product, but your experience on set?
Yeah, it's always tough because I think sometimes I'll remember certain things and change like my mind. But I guess for me, you know, the second movie, Chamber of Secrets, was like so significant because suddenly I wasn't just this like little girl character. I suddenly was like very pivotal to the narrative of the story. You know, I was suddenly like used as this kind of, you know, I was very manipulated and used basically by Lord Voldemort, and became this kind of luring way for Harry to sort of be drawn towards me. So, and you know, I guess at that point we didn't really realize too the then and fate of the two of their characters. You know, at that moment it was just more like him caring because he was his best friend's sister. So it was kind of, it like catapulted me into the story. And also from a performance level, suddenly I was like acting a lot more. You know, I think the first movie was just like one moment, and then suddenly you're really performing something kind of quite dark. So that was a big turning point for me, and I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it gave me a lot of confidence too that I needed. Yeah.
I am actually admiring you so much because I can't even remember my lunch yesterday, and you're here telling me all these great stories from, I don't know, 10 more years ago. So congratulations.
Yeah.
And well, because you said about Chamber of Secrets, Gina had this big protagonist moment during that movie. And actually, that part that Gina is being taken over by Tom Riddle's diary seemed like B-roll filming. Was all that detail scripted or more open for the director to create and for you to create upon them?
No, that was all. Yeah, you're right. It was very like improvised B-roll stuff because we had, you know, you had always on a film set of that scale, you have a main unit and then you have a second unit. So the second unit is going and picking up on different things. So I remember we did like a couple of days of just like lots of different kind of moments and vignettes of different things that they wanted to like edit together as a montage. So there's a lot of stuff that we shot that kind of never got into the film. But, you know, the stuff that is in the film, for instance, is when I like run into the bathroom and I throw the diary down the toilet, and one thing that never actually got included, which was like I think maybe a bit too dark, they realized after they filmed it, was like when there's the you know, there's like the signs in the hallways that have written in blood like her body lies in the Chamber of Secrets and all that stuff. So they did a scene we did, and it was like snowing at night, and she goes into like the school's chicken coop and like kills a chicken because she's the one who writes on the wall. And it obviously included that because they were like, maybe this is a bit much. But I shot.
Yeah, I think that movie was very scary for me, like when I watched it. So I can imagine if only had a chicken death moment. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, yeah, a big snake, okay. Chickens dying, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, we don't need that.
Yeah, and actually, in those scenes that you are inside the Chamber of Secrets, you're kind of sleeping / half dead during some of that time. Was there a lot of weeks of filming like that before you could like wake up? Were you always like, oh yeah, I'm going to act here, I'm sleeping, but then you were like, oh, I want to wake up soon, guys?
I was so bored of lying there looking dead. I was like, when can I wake up? I remember every day it was like, are we going to get to that moment yet? They're like, yeah, I think so. And then a whole another day would go by and I was still lying on the floor. It was also because it's meant to be the kind of pipes underneath the school. So it's all meant to be like kind of wet, you know, under there. And it's by that kind of, but it would keep drying up because all the lights were shining on it. So the water that was meant to make the floor all look like wet kept drying up. So they would between every scene, like spray the floor, but they wouldn't move me. I would just stay in between. So it was always like kind of covering my eyes and like not getting sprayed. And it was really cold. But I remember being so excited when I got to wake up from the dead.
How weren't you shivering, like, with the cold of the water?
I had do you know what a hot water bottle is? You know those like bottles that you fill with hot water? Have you ever?
Oh, okay, yeah, like for cramps, for example.
Yeah. So I had one of those under my back, keeping me warm under my clothes.
I'm loving it. And well, actually going to another movie, I believe that in the fourth movie, you and Neville's character learned a tango routine. Am I right? For the ball in the Goblet of Fire?
Yeah, we did. We because we had sort of the main choreography that everyone learned, like the main scene, and then we had, you know, the side note of our characters was that, you know, we got really into it, and we had this amazing whole tangoed choreography we did, and we never got to shoot it. We didn't even shoot it. It wasn't even like I think.
Oh my God! Do you remember any of the? Do you remember the choreography?
I don't remember it.
That's okay, because maybe you can go to Argentina, learn it again, and then it will be okay.
A better way, more authentically.
And well, it's kind of funny how none of you from the cast knew what would happen to your characters before the books came out. Do you remember reading, for example, about Gina and Harry's kissing moment for the first time?
Yeah, I do. And I remember, you know, obviously everyone's reading it at the same time across the world. So there'd be different people who like my brother included, who was like a faster reader than me. So he's already like read that moment and he's probably just like, oh, wait till you get to page, whatever. So yeah, it was kind of surreal because you know, you can't not be reading the book, wondering the fate of your character, but at the same time you're also just enjoying the book because you want to be reading the book for all the other plot twists and everything. But yeah, I kind of saw it coming, but didn't see it. Like it definitely took me by surprise, and I was like, oh wow, this is like suddenly like the pressure's on, you know. Suddenly when your character becomes that and really develops in that way, it was definitely like exciting, but also kind of terrifying too.
Yeah, not only because your character is getting more screen time, but also because that relation was something very commented by the fans. How was it to imagine the expectations of the fans about that scene?
Yeah, it's hard, I think. I mean, naturally, everyone has their interpretations of everything, and it's always some people are going to love how the films were portrayed and adapted, and others are going to disagree. And I think also what's really hard is you just can't include. There's so many great scenes in the book that would have really helped the development of them and their relationship that just weren't included in the films, which I always thought was a shame because it would have been easier, I think, to like show that developing and show that kind of connection. So I wish there had been more, I think. But I think with all things, you just have to like know that it's your interpretation. It's how the director's kind of directing it. It's how the writer writes it, and it just is what it becomes. But yeah, it's kind of wild too. There's just so many opinions, you know, and forums and chats and things that people obviously are just so dedicated to the story that everyone has their opinions, which is great. And I think everyone has their like imagination and interpretation.
And it is a crazy experience because in the beginning of the movies, I think that social media wasn't such a big deal. But then at the end of the movies, yes, it was. So it's kind of crazy because I imagine, were you hearing more from the fans in the last books than in the beginning?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I got any social media stuff till after they finished entirely, because they definitely were only just kind of coming around. You know, towards the end, maybe like Facebook came around and then Twitter, and then I obviously Instagram didn't come out till kind of a few years after the films, which I'm honestly so thankful for, just because, I don't know, I'm just pleased that as a child, I never had any of those things. You can kind of remain in your bubble slightly, you know, until you had like promotion that around the films, you were just really, truly, we kind of felt very, I mean, yes, you knew the scale of which of the production you were a part of. But at the same time, what was so unique about it was that it was really a private kind of intimate experience that didn't need to be kind of dissected all the time by the public.
Yeah. But you also had that moment of feedback in a lot of the promotion tours, I imagine, and the junkets. So were you able to travel a lot the world with the premieres and all that?
Yeah, we did. We definitely traveled a lot during the promotion of the films and did different fun kind of photo shoots together and fun things like that. And it's also nice when you get to go away with everyone because you're so used to being in the same studio to go away. And I always took like either my mum or my dad or my brother on those trips. So it was nice too to share it with them. And yeah, it's kind of, and I think none of that ever got normal. Like I don't think the kind of those kind of events, and especially the amount of people that would line up to go to them, like just every time you were like, whoa. Like
I love doing the premieres. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. You're like, I don't want to get out of the car, just keep driving. Yeah.
And I've seen you participating in some Harry Potter virtual reunions. Also, I heard you on Oliver and James Phelps podcast. And besides those, are you close to some of your old coworkers from Harry Potter? And are you producing any projects or content with them?
Not producing anything coming up. We're doing a sort of quiz to raise money for some charities in I think it's like the end of November. If you was getting this like quiz thing to raise some money for some different organizations in England. But yeah, I'm on like different like WhatsApp chats with everyone, and it's really nice to like see what everyone's doing, and we still very much talk. And when we're in the same city, we still see each other, and it's so nice that everyone. It's just like wild that people are married and have children, and like that's how long ago it was.
I love because that's something that everyone goes by, and you're here saying, "Oh yeah, I'm also scared about that."
Yeah, it's just like the same thing when you have with your like school friends. It's the exact same experience. Yeah.
Same kind of, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit different. Okay.
Yeah. And today, as a director, producer, and writer, what are the characteristics that you search in a project before you get in it?
Yeah, I think most of my films that I've made and written usually it's always sometimes hard to like pinpoint like why and where the inspiration for the story came about. But usually it will be like a repeated like emotion or kind of like sentiment or message that I keep getting drawn to, and I'm sort of like interested to what that might be. Like it could be like one of my films is really about loss, and I kept being really interested in stories about kind of loss and losing someone and like what happens afterwards, and so then a short film came out of that. And then the short film that I just made a couple of months ago that we're editing right now is very much heavily inspired and based on my environment, work in kind of plastic pollution and ocean health and environmental kind of space. So, and to be honest now, I think everything I do has the lens of that. Everything is kind of always somehow about the environment and the protection of it, and the kind of, I guess, looking at the sort of like repercussions of our actions, essentially, especially in terms of narrative. Like all those things are fictional. They're not documentary style films. They're very much stories. And I'm kind of always have been more interested in fictional things rather than documentaries, because I think you can sort of like pull people in without necessarily knowing that's the sort of story that they're getting themselves into. And I think you're kind of vulnerable when you love the characters or you fall in love with the characters. I think as an audience member, you as the director can then kind of insert some moral reasoning for the story that sometimes can like communicate or change people's hearts and minds quicker, I think, sometimes than like shocking documentary footage. Yeah.
I think that too. And I also think that in a fiction, you reach more in educational, environmental issues wise. I think that can reach a lot of people. And well, talking about that, I am absolutely loving your work now, also as an activist. And you just did an awesome trip to Guatemala to see for yourself what's happening around the world. How did you get in touch with this topic for the first time?
Yeah, so I went to Guatemala in March with Rainforest Alliance, and I guess I'd always known about Rainforest Alliance for their like certified stamp that they put on a lot of foods. So
Yeah,
it's on like chocolates and
that's true.
bananas and coffee and stuff. So I was always interested in like certification and how that helps the consumer like make better choices with what they buy, and how they realize that
Yeah.
has like very, huge effects on people's livelihoods and, the sustainability practices of the farming. So I think I first too came mostly aware of their work, or kind of invested more interest when there was the fires in the Amazon, and I think I like posted a few different organizations, like led people to give to those organizations, of one of which was Rainforest Alliance. So then they kind of contacted me, and then we kind of met at the beginning of this year. And then they already had this trip planned they were doing to Guatemala, and they were like, do you want to come? It's next month. And I was like, sure, I'll come. And that basically was visiting one of their really successful projects that is in the Maya Biosphere Reserve in the Patan region. And
Okay.
that's just a basically kind of went there to basically see how best essentially the rainforest can not experience deforestation, and how that is achieved by allowing locals who are knowing of the land to manage the land, rather than obviously kind of the colonial ways of people coming in and not understanding how to steward the land, and instead do practices that end up causing deforestation or fires or different things. So it was amazing just to see a project that really works. I think often we can see things that aren't working, or they're sort of a negative sort of story, and it was lovely to see this positive story where the locals, or the towns are basically run as cooperatives, so everyone's working on the land but then get paid back by the land, by what their work
And together.
Yeah, and it's also governed by them. They get to make the decisions. It's not by this like one figure of authority. So that was really great, and that was in March. And yeah, I would say my sort of under the huge umbrella of environmental stuff, second to sort of plastic pollution, I would say kind of agriculture and sort of food systems and like soil health are like my second kind of passion.
Yeah, that's great. During that trip, was there any moment that you lived it and you were like, oh my God, this is changing me, and I just want to go back home to tell everyone about this moment?
Yeah, I think always. I think that's what's so, when you have, as I have had the experience to go to these really unique places, or have experiences that are very kind of informative or close to these people, you can't. And I think obviously why I'm interested in directing is as I'm so interested in hearing people's stories, and like seeing how best to communicate that when I go home, or with the audience that I have. So yeah, I definitely was very, as I was there, kind of sharing those stories and taking and shooting a lot of photos, and sort of communicating it in that way, because I do think sometimes, conservation work or work that organizations are doing can seem really, really far away. And I think the minute you put faces to those stories and you meet people, you instantly feel like you kind of understand them. And yeah, I really enjoyed, I don't know, even just in the informality of Instagram, just sharing that kind of story as I was there was really fun.
But I think that's what's powerful about that narrative and this moment, because you're showing how everyone can do their own thing as citizens, and how everyone can mind about the environment. And I think it's awesome. I hope you get going with that. So after Guatemala and after the world comes back to normal, which place do you think you would like to go?
Ooh, God, it's so hard. It's so interesting slowing down to actually be like, where do I want to? I mean, it's honestly been so lovely to have so many amazing places that I've been going to.
I'm hoping you will say
recently.
someone, South America. Yeah, I'm here, South America, Bonnie.
Yeah, I know. I need to. I feel like when I was in, it's also great when from my childhood, London is your center of your compass, and what you imagine to be close becomes there. But when you shift your center of where you live, suddenly these places that were really far away, such as Argentina, you're like, they're actually really close. And it takes a long time to be like, oh, it's right there and I can access that. I feel like I need some hot tips or a good guide, you know.
Okay, so later I'll tell you more about how you
Yeah,
can come
thanks.
to Argentina, drink some wine, and also care about the environment. Go to the
Okay.
Brazilian Amazon. We can do
Yeah.
something there. I think that's something.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and also, I've seen your work as a director in a lot of music videos. What are your favorite music artists today that you would love, love, love to direct a music video with?
Oh, that's a tough question. I love doing music videos too, because you're kind of, you're starting with someone's entire vision and story. You don't, it's so much more to sort of begin with, rather than having to like pull some narrative out of the sky.
Yeah.
Who would I want to do some music for? I've always like got just like a long-term obsession with Frank Ocean, but I think his videos are way cooler than anything that actually, a friend of mine shot one of his music videos called Tyro and Levon, and he did a very good job. But I'm trying to think who else. I have actually a new music video coming out on December 4th. Watch
Really?
out for it. Yeah.
Can you
It's
tell us of whom?
yeah, it's an artist that I've done a music video for before called Maguire, and this one is called Melt. And we actually shot it in December last year, so I'm very excited for it to come
Oh
out.
my God.
It's only taken a year. But other artists that I love, I like an artist called Julia Jacqueline. I like an artist. Who else do I like? Gosh, I always also have like fantasies of like going back in time and shooting music videos for like
but
people.
now you're
Like I would
getting
love,
everything more interesting. Okay, so who would you pick? Oh my God.
I would love to like go back in time and shoot a music video for. I love Eartha Kitt, and I love who else do I love? I love Leonard Cohen. I love Van Morrison. Like to go back in time and I don't know, just to sit and get to know
Yeah.
them, or like go on the road with someone like that and video the photos and things.
I think
I think being on the road with an artist, I would love to do, because I think you shoot a music video and it's fun, but I think to actually really sit and understand their like world and their showmanship on stage, I think would be cool. Like a film I really love, weirdly, is Walk the Line, the film about Johnny Cash.
yeah.
Yeah, just to get that whole like character, that kind of the depth of those kind of artists are just like so tortured and kind of interesting.
I'm loving the on the road idea because we are quarantining for so long that maybe shooting some video and music videos with people, like with during a live concert, like maybe if I were you, I would be like, oh yeah, I can go to Woodstock and maybe do something there. Yeah, something like that.
I think that's probably a craving. I'm obviously just missing live music. I'm like, that would be so good.
Yeah. Do you like to go to a lot of live concerts?
I do, yeah. I feel like I sort of much prefer that than just like in terms of like a social thing to do, rather than going to a bar. I'm someone who like loves
Oh
hanging
yeah.
out with people in houses or outside, or go to something like specific where you're really like collectively experiencing something, whether that's a concert, a festival, an exhibition, the theater.
Yeah.
Like I definitely miss being in rooms with other people, like collectively experiencing something, even if I don't know the people around me, just having that. It's such a unique thing.
Yeah, exactly. I believe that too. And also about your the music videos that I've already seen, but in December I will be watching your next ones. I loved so much the iguana bird that you did with Pete Yorn and Scarlett Johansson. So how did that happen? Because that's a crossover.
I know, yeah, it was quite as fun. I mean, how music videos usually work and how commercials work is usually like pitch ideas to the record label. So a production company I work with, they'll get through like the certain videos that labels are looking for directors to direct. So then you essentially get a pretty broad kind of initial thing of what they want to do. That might be like a couple of sentences of what they're kind of trying to achieve with the music video, and then you get the track, and then you basically pitch your concept and idea. So that came about through that kind of formal way that stuff is made. So I pitched a concept for that, and then they really liked it and had some conversations with them, and then made the music videos, and that was through Capitol Records, and it was fun. It was really good fun to do, and I'd never really done much sort of really specifically like choreographed dance, but I always wanted to. And The dancer in that, Nicola Colley, I had sort of found on Instagram and really loved her work, and just reached out to her to be in it, and now we're really good friends, which is great. And it was just lovely to sort of have choreography, but the way she works is pretty improvised. That was a fun video to shoot.
I wouldn't say that is a choreography. I was just imagining that you put some music on and then everyone was feeling it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you have told me that those new projects coming up, like your music videos, but is there any other new projects besides the music videos?
So I shot a short film in August, and that's called Consumed. And that's basically, it's very connected with my feature film that I've been developing. That will be my first feature film that I'll direct, that's have to sort of, with this year, take a bit of a backseat and I wait until everything can sort of resume again. But essentially, I wanted to make a short film that was very much based on those similar themes. So the feature film is essentially like a monster movie about the environment.
Oh my God,
that's giving this idea that we are the monster at the end of the day, and it'll kind of, our actions will come back to haunt us. So in the movie, the monster's form is literally made from trash. So it's kind of through the toxicity of this one town and this one chemical plastic plant, like factory, this monster sort of forms in the old landfill and kind of comes back to haunt this town. So that's the feature film. And then we made a short film back in August that is similar themes, but more contained. So it's just about a couple who are at home one evening getting takeout and eating food and watching TV and a sort of general kind of consumption of everything. And this monster that you never actually see on screen, but you kind of hear, again, comes to sort of like haunt them in their house. So,
oh my God. Well, I'm already a fan. And the Consumed, oh my God, the first one, I loved it. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm excited right now.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up the panel, would you like to send a message to your fans in Argentina and Latin America also?
Yes, I would love to. Well, as we've guessed, I need to come to Argentina and explore Latin America.
And show your tango moves. Yeah,
that I might need to brush up on. But I'm sure I can be taught that. And yeah, but as I said, I've always experienced such like warm love from everyone in Latin America. And it's lovely that, I think what's so lovely about Harry Potter is that it just continued, more and more. You meet kids who like weren't even alive when we were making the films that were fans of it. So I love that the story continues and it keeps kind of creating a space and home for people to come back to. And I love that. And so thank you for being those people, because I feel like it just wouldn't be the world it is without the fans and without you. So thanks.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for your time and also for like giving me so much knowledge. So thank you. And thank you so much, Argentina Comic Con. See you later.
Bye-bye.